Jai Meher Baba, continuing with Stay with God by Francis Brabazon, a statement in illusion on reality. God in the beyond state is likened to a soundless, shoreless ocean. The whim of God for knowledge of himself, who am I, manifested as sound. This oceanic sound is of God and contains and is his experience of power, knowledge, bliss. The emergence of this sound through what is called the Om point, or its creative utterance, produced the worlds of mind, energy, and matter. This primal oceanic sound is the root of all forms and creatures and men, and they are continuously connected with it and derive their life from it. When one closes one's lips and expresses sound, a is produced. This is the foundation or ground of all spoken words and contains all feelings, as when it expresses pain and anguish, or joy and happiness, or all thought when expressed during thought, and is capable of containing the whole of a question and its answer. This is a drop of faint sound of the oceanic sound. The or word of God separated from the ocean by 7 shadows of separation. If the whole universe was a huge bell, the sound of it in comparison with sound of the oceanic sound would be as the furthermost point of audibility of an ordinary bell. This sound drop is not different from the oceanic sound. It is that ocean and can never be anything but ocean. But it experiences itself as a drop because of separation. This separation is not a separation by division, but a separation through impression. As words are expressions of this drop, separated from the oceanic, so are sense actions, expressions, and experiences removed from oceanic experience, seeing and seen from oceanic sight, hearing and heard from oceanic hearing, smelling and scent, tasting and flavor, touching and touch from corresponding oceanic faculties. This original oceanic is called Brahm Nad, sound or word of God, or Unhud Nad, limitless sound or word. It is continuous and is the eternal root and continuous cause of all causes and effects. It experiences all power, all knowledge, and all bliss. But the drop, although of the same substance, and not in any way different from the oceanic, and although continuously connected with it, feels, because of its separation through 7 shadows of separation, most weak, most ignorant, and most unhappy, even though at times it asserts strength, knowledge, and happiness. In this present age, when words, through accumulation and accretion, have become meaningless, and all my previous words in the form of precepts are neglected and distorted, I maintain silence. When I break my silence and speak, it will be this primal oceanic which I will utter through my human mouth. And because all forms and words are from this primal sound, or original word, and are continuously connected with it and have their life from it, when it is uttered by me, it will reverberate in all people and creatures, and all will know that I have broken my silence and have uttered that sound or word. The effective force of this word in individuals and their reactions to it will be in accordance with the magnitude and receptivity of each individual mind. And the reaction will be as instantaneous and as various as the reaction of people in a room through which a cobra suddenly and swiftly passes, when some would nervously laugh, some lose control of their bowels, and some feel great courage or reasonless hope and joy. Meher Baba. Book 3, God Speaking, the question which reality asked itself, and the beginning of illusion and its end. Once God, that great being, whose nature is existence, knowledge, and bliss, slept. He was like a man in deep sleep, who is, but does not know that he is. He had no knowledge of his knowledge, no experience of his bliss. He was like a still, shoreless ocean, which no wind or wave moved upon. There was nothing but him. There were no stars or sun, nor earth, nor anything. All things were within him, but since he slept, they also were asleep, unformed and unmanifest. All knowledge of himself and of all things were in him, but he did not know that he knew. Then there surged within him the desire, whim, to know who he was. And he spoke within himself the first speech, "Who am I?" And with the utterance of this first speech, all things in their potentiality came forth from him. But all things are nothing, and so the universe of stars and suns is nothing. Nothing is included in his everything, but is nothing in itself. But at this time, since he did not know his knowledge, he did not know that nothing was nothing at all. Each thing he brought forth out of nothing and caused to exist in seemingness. He, great only being, thought he was. He created stone, thought he was stone, lived as stone, millions of years, and then said, "Something other am I." He created vegetation, thought he was vegetation, lived as vegetation, millions of years, and then said, "Something other am I." He created in turn worms and reptiles, fishes, birds, and animals, and in turn thought he was, and lived as each of these. Then he created man, and said, "This is sufficient for all my requirements. I know myself who I am, because this is my own image, myself." As man, he loved his loves and suffered his loves, sun beat and rain hail, dew of love, whirlpool and dark wave and threatening rocks, warm swirl of the surf's backrush round the ankles, and fine sand suspended like whirls in the water, salt on eyes and mouth, taste of salt on her mouth, and the moon come up huge and yellow, warm honey of kisses, warm honey with slight salt, and the pounding of earth shaker, Poseidon, and dream sleep, and the breeze in the dawn stirring a wisp of her lovely hair. And the night of moon ended, and the honey eaten of her mouth, and the stars of her eyes fled back into the wells where of sky. and the sun come up again in clear sky or murk of another day, and the setting out on wash of dark wave along hammered streets lined with open mouths and protruding tongues of Kali, licking victims and votaries into blast furnaces, goose-stepping them to the rhythm of typewriter keys. His loves loved and joyed and suffered, stored and remembered, sifted and sorted and evaluated through his many lives, till he takes his stand in the flood mightily, and suffers the flood and turns the weight of its waters to break through the past of the encircling mountains onto the plains of Troyland, of Kurukshetra, turns it against the mashed shields and spears and nodding forest of plumes and the sudden rifles, and hurled destruction and carried death, changing himself with impetuous valor in unheard of feats of courage and endurance. No longer can he be counted a man, but is a hero, unthinkably great and unimaginable in feats, with the weapons of pent waters in his hands and the roar of waters in his soul. But also great is the enemy. If he falls, he dies a hero's death, and the battle maidens bear him to a hero's reward. But if he sustains the war and bears on gloriously, and God and his Guru guard him, and pour into his soul divine grace, and into his limbs unmatchable strength, he wins to the first circle of the seven-circle citadel of God. Here he rests and enjoys the perfumes of paradise, until the Master, watchful and benign, urges him gently on, and he mounts to the second shining circle and enjoys heavenly music. And again the Master urges on, and he arrives at the third circle of infinite light. Now if the gentle Murshid urges on again, halfway across the wide plain of that plain lies enchantment. But if he holds steadily to the Master's name and vision of his lovely face, he passes the danger and arrives at the fourth circle of this way. Here the powers which tempted Buddha and Jesus in the wilderness are ranged against him. Nor God, nor any man, save God as fully manifest as a man, perfect in love and power, can help him. Only by the perfect Master's perfect mercy can these powers be held in check, and the fifth glorious circle won, or turned and directed towards universal good, thus bringing him straightway to the sixth circle, where he sees God, his own very self, face to face continuously. Now begins the game of love in earnest, to which the flight of nights of earth, moon, and thundering wave on white beach, and stars of eyes and honeyed mouth, and delicate wisp of hair in sudden breeze was apprenticeship to forgetfulness and service. This is the love which only the verses of God himself or his perfect saints can hint us towards. Deafness and sightlessness and the wasted frame and tears, God as a man worshipping God as God, and God as God loving himself in a man, and so till he tears the final veil between him and himself and answers his question, "Who am I?" with "I am myself." Once God slept, and there surged within him the urge, the whim to know himself, and he asked himself, "Who am I?" And he was objectified to himself, as opposite to him, experiencing contrariety. and so disrupting his indivisible poise and eternal tranquility, and causing in him experience of impression which was gross, solid, himself as separate from him, finite as opposite from infinite. He became conscious by impression, not of himself as eternal, infinite self, but of finiteness which, in turn, necessitated form, seed of contrariety grown by the reverberation of the first urge. And he built for himself a house of stone, not of stone walls, but solid stone, and sat down in it. And because of the closeness of stone thought, though without active thinking, he was stone. He, the eternally free and only existent one, thought he was stone. But after ages and cycles of this imprisonment, the heat of his desire for self-knowing melted the stone, and he was freed from imprisonment in stone, but retained the impressions of stoneness, and with these impressions of most solidness, built for himself a more commodious house in which to experience solidness with greater freedom. This house was iron, and because of its closeness, identified himself with iron and sat in iron sitting for ages and cycles, though not so long, since iron melts quicker than stone, and this house, too, dissolved away. And, using as materials the impressions impressioned in consciousness, he built his next house, of thick vegetation of mosses and grass, and twining creepers and trees growing thickly, but these, though green with sap, burned quickly, and his consciousness was free of entanglement of dreaming vegetation. And he opened his eyes to surrounding flesh, worm flesh and fish flesh and bird flesh and beast flesh, and last, man flesh. And man flesh was thin flesh and consumed easily in the fire, but desirable above all other forms of flesh. And so each time the fire, now identified as love, burned down one house, he quickly built another for his man experiencing, so sweet with joy and pain. Man house and woman house, house well built and strong, jerry built, designed in beauty or ugliness. He the householder, loved, unloved, progressing, standing still or falling back in the press of I. Loving his loves and suffering his loves, breaking down, death, and building up again, birth, innumerable houses for his requirement of innumerable experience. And between each casting off, accompanied by groans and sweats and hopes from priest and fears from prospect, clinging back and sundering on, and new assuming, through mother pains and blood and hopes and anguish neglected or comforted, heaven or hell, according to deeds, desires, and accomplishments, where he sorted out discarded or accepted values of human beingness, paid pains for sin, delights for virtue, never arriving at that hidden equipoise which, if got, would finish the infernal seesaw of up good, down bad, and back where you come from to another body, because that's the way you want it, although you don't. Equipoise, balance, the calm and patient sweat of adepts on the path to truth. What chance a bloke got without a body attached to solid earth, or some fixed, luminous star to hold to, trying to juggle the scales of relative value, trying to assess the inertia of the pendulum and hold it midway, 6 o'clock exact. But as the earth nights of moon and stars of eyes and cool breeze, over the still warm sands curling a wisp of hair across her brow which nourished his vision, and the roar of the surf of earth-shaker Poseidon pointing his pulse of life force, to more than himself, to distance, was apprenticeship to forgetfulness and service by which he would become, oh, in what ages and cycles to come, a lover of God. So all this fumbling with scales betwixt breaking up and again building of innumerable houses was schooling for the day when would be revealed to him the eternal values of truth. Going and coming, demolishing with fire one house and building another with bricks of impressions baked in the fire, till he takes his stand in the flood and turns the waters to control the fire, or grasps fire in 2 hands wet with weeping and worshipping its glowing countenance, moves it to burn the rubbish in the house, or seeks the master, bright beyond fire's brightness, moist-eyed with floods of beneficence and mercy, and offers him the sin of vice and virtue of householding, offers him his bricks of himself to be pounded back into clay for remodeling. Takes his stand and stops playing the role, stops walking about the house admiring it, picking up knickknacks from the shelves, dusting and stroking and acknowledging them as worth and placing them back in just right places, looking out from the sitting room windows at the view and garden, thinking a shrub there, some so-and-so flowers there. I, the householder, turning back into the room, considering his face, a few gray hairs figure a bit too much in the mirrors, and turns on himself coldly or savagely, and deliberately opens the door and leaves it to whomso to loot and enjoy. But whatever comes at last the ripening through loves and unloves, swift joys and slow pain, sure grasp and shaking hand, ripen to indifference and alertness, and he takes his stand in the current of comings and goings. And next time he comes with transparent residual impressions for building material, and builds him his next last house through which from outside light shines, and he loses himself in dreaming light, and goes in light and weighs light and returns with materials of light, and builds a house of light and meditates light, becomes light, and never again returns. Once God slept and awoke and journeyed in immense journeying through stone and metal and green of earth and worm and fish and bird and animal, and assumed man shape. And as man loved his loves and suffered his loves and died to his loves and was born to them again and again, repeating each time the folly of I and you, yours and mine, linking securely the links of the evil chain. A man, sunlight of eyes and pastures of sweet lips, dark night and the cruel wave curling beneath. The road, himself the road, love and the grace of the Master. Dropped last roll state, cold heaven and hell, pleasure and suffering intensified through lack of dampening flesh. Hell is hot or hot and cold according to heat of desires and coldness of love. But world, himself, is fire which ever heats the crucible of forms, in which is melted the impressions of flesh and bone and brain back to their origins of earth, fire which, after the clay, is molded again as bricks for heart's next desire, bakes them to hardened form for soul's next enterprise. Himself, brickmaker, fire, house builder, and householder. Heaven and hell, place of attempted scale balancing, from which, again coming and assuming another form, to play another role upon the stage of world seeming, remembering nothing of the last part or endless list of performances, the new role in accordance with the shapes of ardencies and sloths, the qualities and directions of greed and altruisms, the means of spending these impressions, and in the spending taking up fresh debt to try and balance in drop body state, the present role, a bark and growl, or a singing of sweet waters in sunlight over crystal sand, according to intent and vehicle. Vehicle of gross body, grossness is finiteness, seed of separation, to which consciousness clings, while self longs for return. Consciousness clings to the earth, like a child to its mother, while soul peeps out from behind her skirt to fresh adventure of play, or from security of warmth, kneels before winter window, dreaming of spring and sun, and vaguely voyaging. Consciousness clings to the earth, to its body which is every moment passing away and returning, and says, "This is my home, myself," while soul, skies, dreams, journeys and performances unhindered by body's weight. Never coming to terms with it, never for long, undividedly enjoying residence in earth and forms, promises, never holding beyond the duration of the glass wine's taste, beyond the duration of the kiss, forgetfulness, beyond the night, release, moon of beauty, and then harsh sun of day, and baked or frozen lands or narrow streets and fears, resident in earth, house building, bridge building to beyond earth's boundaries and the unseen bridge, and reviewing unskillfully experience of earth residence, good against bad, bad against good, equipoise, engrossment, and falling to birth to experience that engrossment, till he meets the blissful, compassionate Master and takes his stand in the flood, in the currents of himself and says in himself, enough has been far too much, and willingly and reverently, and with joy high hope bows before that one of wisdom and light, saying, teach me and help me. And he, the great one who crossed and returned again over the ocean of fire and waters, this Odysseus of voyaging, twice born after visiting the land of death without dying, and so dead to life, reaching home where his treasure was, and filling his ship with abundant gold, and returning over the trackless sea to succor famished men, says, fear not, my child, my lover. There is a way through the sea of appearance in which you are swirled, a method of stopping the whirling wheel of rebirth, a means whereby the foundations of your present house may be shattered and no more built. For every knot tied there is an untying, for every pain a remedy, for every ignorance a replacement with knowledge. Ancient is this knowledge, so ancient that God on his first arrival back into himself after his same journey you are making, knew it and brought it down to earth as first avatar, so ancient, yet ever wondrously new. And sings to him with sweet voice the deathless story of self's journeying, of the beyond state in which he slept in vast tranquility, like to a shoreless, waveless ocean, knowledgeless, and his awakening with desireful curiosity to know himself, which brought about he leaving himself and wandering in ignorant identifications, as stone, as metal, as vegetation, as worm, fish, bird, animal, and man through countless ages, and then as man, birth after birth, millions of times in which he experienced being man and woman, rich and poor, foolish and wise, healthy and sick, and all the possible opposites engendered by separation. How he took his stand and fought the wars of returning and returned, now with all knowledge, all power, and still bliss, and came down again as Savior to man's selves of himself. His various avatars, each one unique and lovely, perfectly himself. Of Zarathustra, bringer of the sacred fire of love and pure intelligence. Ram the archer whose arrows were shining light. Abraham the pure who taught man to worship one God. Krishna the player of divine music in human hearts. Buddha the tender who showed men the passingness of life. Jesus the only real ascetic, and Muhammad who lived with men. Sings to him the song of wayfaring, the adult occupation, melting his heart with its sweetness and inspiring his soul with its possibility, then gives to him the precious word, to be his sword to cut through the hosts of himself, the hosts of vast exile nourished by the moon and bright foam sea, and stars of eyes and horizons of brow and wells of sweet lips, and sun, clear or in murky skies and hammered streets, a sword to slay the great beasts of far past, to cut himself free from entrancement on the dazzling plains, and go on, back to the Master, he to cut the last veil between him and himself. Continuing with Stay with God, a statement in Illusion, Unreality by Francis Brabazon. We're now on Book 3, God Speaking, the question which reality asked itself, and the beginning of illusion and its end. Once, God slept and awoke, half waking into dreaming, and spread out the creation as a great tree, its roots in the nothing of his dream, its branches and leaves and fruits in the nothingness of appearance. It is called the tree of knowledge, because by it God came to self-knowledge. For before he ate of its fruits, he, even God, knew not himself. The tree of knowledge through experience of good and evil, its sweet and bitter fruits. And because God ate of these fruits and became God, they are not forbidden men. They are not forbidden men. The tree of knowledge, which is the tree of life, kept living by the rivers of necessity, and compassion and wisdom and infinite love, the soul growth, blossoming universes and man, the tree on which God crucified himself in limitation, on which men crucify themselves, each other, and dear God. Tree which he spread out from his single breath of inquiring, tree, sap of light, fruits of stone fruits and metal fruits and tree fruits and worm fruits and fish fruits and bird fruits and beast fruits and man fruits, fruits which nourished great God on his journey for knowledge, and which, through eating, he became and overcame, and became the energy which grew the tree, and became the mind which gives it existence, and became God which he always was. Tree, wishing tree which bears the fruit of every desire, fruit which contains within it thirst and fresh desire, tree into which slouch-hatted, one-eyed Odin thrust the sword of heroes and battle, earth battle, plains battle, tree of fragrances of nights and moon, and washed beach for bed and eyes wells and brows dream, and wave lap against side of boat moored for journeying, and of sun coming up in chattering street, or jewel sitting in glory on distant mountain peak. Dream tree of dream creation, whose waving branches are the dance of God which makes us crazy and sets us house building and demolishing and again building. Anamaya kosa, pranamaya kosa, manasmaya kosa, with Vijnana Maya kosa and Anandamaya kosa, Nirmanakaya, Sambodhakaya, Dharmakaya, light, light. The light from the Master's lips is the scriptures, from his hands the path setting, from his eyes the tearing of veils, the ruin of the last built house. Build we our houses with bricks of impressions, cement of desire mixed with tears. Build we our houses, so well pleased, so well pleased. Come into my house, wipe your feet first, please wipe your feet. Sit we and talk we, smile and be gay. No God talk please, or allusion to wait talk. God talk and wait talk is crank talk, not tea talk. Gay talk for you, for me talk. With sun-reduced sun of Venetian blinds in this house of me house built by me. Master builder, the one who builds this lousy little house, builds also universes, spins suns in burning, hums earths around them, spaces them in spacelessness, times them in timelessness, and orders the time of their ceasing from turning. Master builder, self the creator, self the sustainer, self the destroyer, self the mirror maker of image of himself, little householder. Bright are your tears of happiness and sorrow, portion self-gotten, pitiable your bed and table and bowed walk, pitiable and glorious. Light of the physical sun with which is the moon, and curve shape and solid form, frame for art. Light of the divine sun which lights the forms in infinite appearance of reality. Man is God in man-shaped suffering, enjoyment and suffering, self-separation. Divine sun weeping veils to cover him from self, and crying to sun for light, to earth for sustenance, to moon for beauty. All giver become beggar before the doors of nothingness. Dreamer absorbed in dreaming, trying to shake himself free from the web of dream, to discern the real, to choose the hard choice of the light road forking at each step. Journeys, dies, and takes birth, journeys until tired, and rests and considers the outcome of journeying, holds what he has acquired for so long and examines it and discards the trash, dies, takes birth, examines and discards, begins dying in love death of rebirth in love life, the house so carefully built, crumbling bit by bit, before the same fire which baked its bricks to dust under his glorious feet, to sing his praise or silently adore, or for his wind to blow any whither, or be remolded into useful self-shape in his service. Takes his stand, at last takes his stand and rejects. The moon road to rebirth informs delight and pain, of nights of cool breeze over warm sands curling, a wisp of fragrant hair across brow, dreaming unseen light, and near thunder of Poseidon's horses on blue paddock of ocean, and dawns, and disastrous days of ambition realized or thwarted. The moon rode to lovely form and fear and hope, and takes the sun road, the death road to immortal self, unborn, undying, abodeless being, knowledge, bliss, who built no houses, only dreamed a dream. Once God slept, untroubled by shadow of dream, unknowledged, with knowledge of good and evil, without knowledge even of himself, being infinite knowledge. From sleep he awoke and marched out, and unfurled worlds of finiteness, hardness of contrariety, and planted them up through the seven kingdoms as banners of false conquest, and stood and took his stand in himself flood, and turned it back and won back to himself, stripping him of not himself as he went, and arrived glorious in real conquest, from where he started and slept awake, sleep of emptiness, filled with I am God, power, knowledge, bliss, the goal. Book 4. The steps to his feet, abandoning illusion for reality. So must be prepared the ground for the sowing, for the entering of the seed of light in one's earth. The seed of man is the gathered light of form. The seed of light is the grace of the perfect Master. The first is coupled with death. The second is the cause of immortality. Following the moon path is rebirth. Following the track of the sun, the wheel of birth is broken. Man is reborn in the deathless, never to return except as a perfect master. Worshipping the gods of thy God, the gods of gadgets and guns, one is born again where the burden may be reassumed, where the fright and the frustration may be again enjoyed. Worshipping with surrenderance and love the name and form of God, to God one comes when it is the whim of the perfect Master. Suffering birth again and again, and never learning that ourselves of our desires and hopes exist not, but arose out of nothing, nothing, held loosely in everything's hand as a game for its knowledge, that it comes at long last to the condition of a perfect master. Held in its hand as a ball and tossed, and caught and tossed by a man marking the pleasure of his marksmanship, or as a mirror in a lovely woman's hand, advising her of her loveliness in the world of forms and births in the hand of the perfect master. Thus the sun beat and wave roll and breaking of dream joys and dream pains, and the eyes washed or sealed with new pain, the one adored melting into one's outline of desiring, or hardening into bitter pain, until we of ourselves melt into the eyes and love of the perfect Master. The clearing of the ground for the sowing, for the entering, is the unlearning of learning. For learning is your rubbish heap of conceit. For this, in the first place, Prometheus Agni brought down the heavenly fire by order of the perfect Master. But some impressions do not burn, and for these Siva brought down the waters of the Ganges to drown them, to create on earth a reservoir of tears for lovers, rivers, divine ocean bearing according to the will of the perfect Master. And some neither burn nor drown, but must be strangled to death. Hence it is said, swallow thy breath every moment. But this is not possible unless by the gift of divine love one is strangled for sight of Him, the gift of the perfect Master. To unlearn all one has learned, a bitter swallowing, a chasmal yawping before one's feet, a yawping yawning, a wide widdy to hang fat-necked conceit, impossible without the guidance of the perfect Master. So it is said, one moment in the company of a saint is worth 100 years of penance and prayer. And as Baba pointed out, Jalaluddin was talking only about saints. How much magnified when related to the being of God in the person of the perfect Master. All written words are dead until you bring them to life, but the life you give them will be your own image of falseness, not truth's. Truth is contained only in the life-giving word of the perfect Master. It is better to read than gossip. It is better to meditate than read. It is better to love than meditate. But since you are already trapped in the coils of mental convulsions, read the books of the saints, and God speaks by the perfect Master. And serve other than self, since self is the veil between oneself and self. But the hindrance to this is delight in praise and resentment of blame and love of expressing these two, unless directed according to the instructions of the perfect Master. Or deny the world and oneself, and in utter solitude, regardless of food and wet or dry and hot or cold, fix one's mind wholly and undividedly on the formula, I am God, until He appears in the form of the perfect Master. Or practice the moral law and accept the responsibility sowing and reaping as apportioned one, the bones of religion to pick and rattle, until the round of time brings one round to fortune of sight of the perfect Master. The moral law. First make peace with thy brother. But pitiful indeed is one who says, first the affairs of the world, then the path to God. Easy the path, he thinks. The weight of the world will anchor his feet, and never will he find the path to the door of the perfect Master. Pitiful the one who, because of a dream of an angel visiting him or Christ speaking, imagines he is on the path, sunk in a stupor, on the seashore watching a ship passing, but not on its deck the lovely person of the perfect master. Pitiful the one who says, "Alone I will do it." He has not heard the way is strewn with the bones of hundreds of thousands who thought thus. Or, though you be a lion, come in under the shade of this palm tree. Sayings of warning because of the compassion of the perfect master. Twaddling and twittering are they, snooking and sniting, hopping nervously, puss-purring and piddle-puddling, while ranging the hills, his glorious mane sweeping the earth, and the roar of his throat gathering itself for the day of his lovely utterance, is the Lion of God, Christ, the perfect Master. Nor follow the way of the rice Christians, the ones in it for the handout, who reckon heaven is a ready-built home on a lottery-won allotment, and God a cow to be tethered on the back lawn for milking. Mean men who refuse the lovely song call of the perfect Master. Nor follow those who close their eyes and behold themselves infinitely desirable, and repeat the formula of their own names, or breathe, on the in-breath magnifying themselves, on the out-breath exuding self-stench, while even the dumb earth swims in the perfumed breath of the perfect Master. Nor dung your eyes and ears with pigments and words, and sounds of seeming relation, blinding your eyes to the lovely model of man and your ears to his singing. Nor theories nor works will avail to imprint in your hearts the form and message of the perfect Master. The spiritual path is the natural occupation of adults. Unconcern is the prerogative of children. The child came here out of curiosity, but the child became a man in order to experience the world, his own body, the grace of the perfect Master. Oh, in the dawn I heard the news being bandied about. Today is being spread the feast for the tavern keeper's son. I would sweep the floor of the tavern with my eyelashes. If there was any chance of being invited to a drinking bout with the disciples of the perfect Master. And I heard in my dreaming, which, O fool, I fondly imagined in waking, the sound of great drops of water splashing, and saw a fountain, glorious in the sun, and knew, or was told, these are the tears of compassion of the perfect Master. Decked in tinsel of riches and position, a man is a caricature of likeness unto God, an idol of self-worship, adorned with divine qualities, natural in a man. He declares his true sonship to the perfect Master. Material ambition is delusion that acquisition is security. Material ambition is delusion that acquisition is security. But what the world calls security is proved no security because it rests upon that which is changing and passing, and not upon love, which is the root and being and crown of the perfect Master. Self is not any of the conditions or qualities it imagines, nor somebody, nor nobody, nor accomplished, nor unaccomplished. All these are impressions, impressioning mind, vehicle of self. The natural condition of self is love. Its demonstration is the being and life and acts of the perfect Master. Remember the love of your loves. All are pleased with the gift, but few praise the giver, until another snatches away the gift. Behind the sun days and the moon nights is the glory and gentleness of the sun and the moon of the perfect Master. Beneath the cry and complaining for position and honor is the cry and weeping of the soul for self-established existence. Beneath the fret and restriction is the restlessness and the bond breaking and the going forth from oneself to self, who is none other than the perfect Master. There is music struck with the hand or labored to voice utterance. There is the unstruck music of the heart and the soul's clear and effortless singing. There is the written verse and the hand-painted picture and the painting of the soul in likeness of the perfect Master. September of the passing year and eternal spring. Soft winds laden with the orchard's sweetness and the breeze coming from the garden of the beloved. The choice, easy for the plainsman, but hard for us who have not yet found favor with the perfect Master. The pious and the materialist have their reward, and the perfume seller on the street corner has occasionally the eye of love returning his bright glances. But we who have no love, no piety, no hope of rewards, no work in the service of the perfect Master, so he has advised us to leave it to him. As aforetime he told us to take no thought for tomorrow. Tomorrow means still hope, and he already has been hopeless and helpless on the roads of the world, that we may become helpless and hopeless of all save the perfect Master. Unlearn your learning, unhope your hopes, unlove your loves. Nothingness is becoming to those arisen from nothing. Clear some ground for love. Love, the entire forgetter, the only rememberer, the chastener and cherisher, the perfect Master. And seek the glorious one, thyself, unborn, undying, unfretted and undismayed, thyself, creator of heaven and earth, unloved, unhated, but love perfect and existent alone in self, thyself in the form and being of the perfect Master. Seek his love, wherever the dark wave shall bear you, in fiercest sunbeat of days and terrible loneliness of nights, nor flag nor friend to greet you, utter night and the dark wave curling above you. Seek his love and forgiveness while yet he is here in the form of the perfect Master. Clearing the ground is erasing the impressions of the mind. Impressions are the veils between ourselves and truth. When they are erased, self stays in his native condition. Self, the beyond God of love from where we once came, and here God of redemption in the person of the perfect Master. The perfect Master, the man God who was a man who became God, who became a man. The perfect Master who is God directly descended, who takes the wheel of the world car from the hands of the perfect Master's number one driver and drives the new circuit and establishes correct lap time. Of all perfect Masters, the perfect Master. The perfect Master, Avatar, who is none but God, who is the everything, which contains the nothing, and his devotee.
जान सद के सा